and things we don't love to see in football.
Ooh.
You know where I'm going with this, Marco, sadly.
Where you're going with this.
You are now watching the bottom 2 players in our league this week.
That's tough, man. Honestly, I had high hopes for my team week 1. I guess I was unsure about my running backs because, like I said, I didn't do too well in drafting running backs this season. And my team just in general just shit the bed, man. I mean, obviously Aaron Rodgers had fucking 1.32 points.
Tough with that.
Like, if Aaron Rodgers doesn't shit the bed, I win, right? And I only lost by 7 points. My Bucks defense had -3 points. Like, if they had even the positive points, I would have won. And then obviously, like, I remember going into halftime, DK Metcalf and Chase Claypool had 0 points. They didn't even have a reception. I don't even think they got targeted in the first half of both those games.
Now, I'm going to piggyback off of 0-point performances and your shitty advice for week 1.
Look. All right, so what I will say is I did say Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk.
That's why someone like Brandon Ayuk scares me. It's because they don't have that fantasy, like, finesse.
Well, we'll see, because I do think he's going to, like, him and Deebo Samuel are going to be the 2 top options.
Yes.
And obviously you have Garoppolo throwing the ball. I don't think you could go wrong. I think Brandon Ayuk's going to be solid.
I think Brandon Ayuk's going to be a dog.
I think so, too.
I wish he... Right.
So I have Deebo Samuel on my bench.
They averaged 16 points, the 2 of them combined, and
they were all...
because Deebo Samuel had 31.8, and I had 31.9. So
hey, man,
just
0.1 matters in fantasy.
It does matter, and I would have loved for Brandon Ayuk to have that. He finished with 0 targets, 0
That was
catches,
crazy. Like, honestly,
0 yards.
I didn't know if he was going to obviously get, like, 20 points, but I never would expect him to get 0.
I wanted to start Mike Williams. I listened to the public. I listened to you hyping up Brandon Ayuk a little bit. And I was like, okay. That gave me more trust in Ayuk.
I did.
And then I was just listening to everyone hating on Mike Williams, and I was like, I shouldn't start him. I don't want to be
because I've had Mike Williams in the past, and he's just been a shitty fantasy scorer. Yeah. I'm not gonna say he's been a shitty player, but in terms of fantasy, he's just been.
I get what you're saying. He's very hit or miss, but I think this is the season he puts it together because Justin Herbert needs someone else to throw the damn ball to, and they got rid of Hunter Henry.
Justin Herbert's a dog. He's a legit QB too.
Speaking of tight ends, Eric Ebron, I knew that was a bad decision. Ended up being shitty. So I scored 80 points this week. Give it up for Joe Longo. I lost 139.2 to 80. And I'll give Carlos's team credit. He had Mahomes, who's GOAT, and then you have D-Hop. He had Cooper Kupp. He had Logan Thomas, who got a touchdown late. He had just a bunch of guys who scored like 25 because they wanted to make fun of me in fantasy week 1, which happens every year. I've said it before on the podcast. I don't build a team for week 1. I build it for week 16 now. I used to say 15, but week 16 now. Or week.
Yeah, exactly. So exactly, like, you don't. Fantasy is a week-to-week game. Bounce back. Also, the thing for me is I feel in a very good place because despite Aaron Rodgers just not doing good, Devontae Adams had 10.6. So when Aaron Rodgers gets going again, Devontae Adams is gonna have minimum 25 a game. Obviously, I expect Aaron Rodgers to get close to that 20-point margin again. Kareem Hunt had 17.1. That was promising. So I know that he's getting touches along with Nick Chubb. Like, they're basically carrying that offense for the most part. And Jarvis Landry.
Actually, what I'm going to do here is I just looked at my phone. We're about to get cut off by the camera, so we're going to take another commercial break. So, we'll be right back. All right, so we're going to get cut off by the camera, so we're going to hop back into it. You were basically just breaking down your team, but...
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I think I've broken it down. I think Deebo Samuel was definitely replacing Chase Claypool in that flex position. I'm going to put him in there. For the most part, I'm going to keep my team relatively unchanged. I'm going to try to see if I can pick up a running back to replace Chase Edmonds. I don't think he did bad. Like, I'm not going to drop him.
Right.
But I also want to see how that workload distributes between him, Christian Kirk, Rondell Moore, and obviously D-Hop.
Yeah.
Because then obviously Kyler Murray likes to run the ball a lot too.
He needs the ball in his hands sometimes.
It's going to be tough to see. Besides that, some moves, hopefully a running back.
Well...
Speaking of moves, actually.
I have adopted the opposite policy. I'm looking at my team, and I'm not confident in it. I knew it from right when I drafted my team, that I was going to have to make some moves at some point. And the moves have happened. Before I get going, I want to shout out Raheem Mostert's knee. because that motherfucker gave out, my team has completely transformed. So I'm number 1 on the waiver wire, meaning my number 1 waiver wire move is going to happen regardless. So I can admit it to him right here, right now. It's Tuesday when we're recording this, so the waiver wire is a big deal right now.
Yeah.
I'm getting Elijah Mitchell, the running back from the 49ers.
I put in a waiver order for that shit, too.
So that's going to be a nice little boost to my team. He's not going to get in with because I have Eckler and Jones.
You don't need him, though. You don't need him.
But I don't need him, so that's a great trade piece because I'm still moving. So what I want to do, I'm going to break down these trades that I've just accepted and that expanded my team with the better players, and now I'm going to congeal it back into another one. So, because of Raheem Mostert, the guy who had him in our league, needed a running back. I originally offered this man, I'm not going to give away his name in the public, but I offered this man Myles Gaskin and Brandon Ayuk, who, yes, he had the 0-point game, but a lot of people would say he has a chance to break out still when he gets back and healthy.
Well, after that game, I don't know.
Well, they didn't use him because he was healthy. Even Kyle Shanahan said it's not because of performance issues. So when he comes back and he's fully healthy, you never know.
But I also think they cemented Deebo Samuel as that number 1 option.
We'll see.
We'll see.
They were playing an easy defense. They might have just had a different game plan. We'll get to it. But either way, I offered him those 2 guys, and I'm like, listen, I'll even bump it up a little bit. And I said for A.J. Brown or Antonio Brown. He has both of those players. He got back to me like 10 hours later and offered me James White, Tyler Boyd, and Juju Smith-Schuster for Myles Gaskin, Jamar Chase, and Le'Veon Bell. And I said that I couldn't give up Jamar, but I was willing to add Le'Veon Bell because that was a dumb ad that I just put in because you never know once Gus Edwards got hurt. But he didn't have any fantasy value. Yeah. Right? Even Latavius Murray had more touches. I said I couldn't add Jamar Chase. I thought he was going to take someone else off or reconstruct the trade. No, he didn't. He just offered the same thing without Jamar Chase. So, yes, for Myles Gaskin and Le'Veon Bell, they combined for 11 points week 1. I got James White, Tyler Boyd, and Juju Smith-Schuster. So I essentially traded Myles Gaskin for those 3 players, which was huge. He just needed a running back. He gave me his plethora of wide receivers and James White, which is essentially just Myles Gaskin 2.0. On the other side, I then traded Robert Woods, what we were just talking about, which hurts the heart a little bit. I still think he's going to have a great year, but I think Cooper Kupp and that Van Jefferson guy kind of took over. And I think Matt Stafford likes targeting his tight ends, Tyler Higbee. So I traded Robert Woods for Tyler Higbee and Jacoby Myers from the Patriots. So I wasn't going to take that trade straight up, but once I got the other trade with it, I figured like that was the best way to reconstruct my team. But yeah, after this week, I will essentially have half a new team. Half of my team will be brand new to me. I'll finally have a tight end. I think I put myself back in the position to kind of win this league. I'm projected, once I get those players into my lineup, I'm going to be projected among the top 5 again instead of, 111. Yeah. So I think I'm right back in it. I think Eckler and Aaron Jones had rough weeks. Obviously, Aaron Jones did, but that's no hate on him.
Yeah,
I think when they get back to scoring 20 a game, Josh Allen scores his 25. That's 60 already, and then whatever combination of wide receivers I want to use, I'll basically have Jamar Chase, Brandon Ayuk he's still on my team, Juju Smith-Schuster, Tyler Boyd, Mike Williams, and then I forgot I traded for someone else, Jacoby Myers. So now I have a rotation. I have a locked-in tight end. Yeah. I'm also going to try to get Cole Kmet off the waiver wire.
That's key, because tight end is one of those positions where you got to keep rotating people in.
Yeah, I mean, once you find one, it's nice, but it's very rare to actually find one unless, like we were talking about last week, you have that top.
For me, like I said, I would just like to replace maybe Chase Edmonds. I expect Devontae Adams to have a big week again. I have DK Metcalf to not. I mean, he still had 16 points, so he didn't do terrible. Especially because they kind of stopped scoring at the end of the game, so he's gonna be fine. George Kittle's gonna be fine. Putting Deebo Samuel in, he's gonna be fine. Right. Bucs defense is gonna be fine. I forgot who we play next week, but we play Atlanta next week, so we're gonna be fine.
Michael Thomas still on the IR.
So that's going to be tough.
But
you can't put them all in the starting lineup.
I'm going to do some transitions here to get to the next segment. So before we leave, what I want to do is kind of incorporate most of our friends into this podcast at some point, give them shout-outs. So the way I'm going to do it easily for this league is shout out the Team of the Week, which dropped 160 points.
160?
Team Mejia, Elkin Mejia, dropped 160. Elkin, he was the second pick of the draft. He had McCaffrey dropped him after, Dalvin Cook went first overall. We're just going to throw that straight in. He had a great week. Shout out to Elkin. Just giving love to the boy. If he ends up watching this, we're still
this is great. So
we're still in the rookie stages. So he went wild. He went wild.
Who did he have week 1? I mean, he had Dak Prescott Dak Prescott did his thing. I think he impressed a lot of people. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey, David Montgomery, probably one of the biggest options for the
Bears.
Bears.
I had him last year, and honestly, having Davon Gurley is a beat. He broke an Aaron Donald tackle. He's a dog.
Yeah, that's a big dude, too. Obviously, Keenan Allen. Julio Jones had 5.9. I have him in my other league.
Talking about tight ends, T.J. Hockenson.
T.J. Hockenson. I mean, yeah, I think it seems like Jared Goff. We could fairly say Jared Goff likes him.
Yep.
And that's one of his favorite targets. Saints defense did their thing against the Packers, obviously.
His lowest scoring player was Julio Jones with 5.9, and that's bound to go up. Tennessee just had a bad week, so it's scary to think that he had 160 and he still has room to go crazier because no one necessarily went off that can't replicate it except T.J. Hockenson.
Yeah.
But Jalen Waddle on the bench too at 16.1. Jamal Williams 25.
I know, I just saw that.
But
I've been trying to find me real.